Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. Recently, Yvgeny Preghozin, the head of the Wagner private military company, PMC, uh, the Russian so-called private, but it's not actually private, military group that took Bakhmut, now Artyomovsk. Uh, he's said in one of his tweets, Telegram on Telegram channel, that he thinks that the Russian military, that Putin should mobilize the entire Russian military. And there are different voices that are also endorsing this idea. Now, this is in response to the escalations of the Ukrainian military launching the missiles into Russian territory, trying to strike Crimea, Moscow, and different civilian, population centers. These are not military targets that they are, focusing on. In one case, they struck a chicken processing plant and killed 19 civilians, from what I've heard. So, and then there was the incursion from northern Ukraine into southern Russia into 3 villages. Now, the Ukrainian government is claiming no responsibility for this. Believe it or not, they're trying to claim that they are not responsible for this. Never mind the fact that this group or groups that were involved in this are using weapons that were provided to Ukraine. There was a tank, several armored personnel carriers, artillery, mortars. From reports, they launched 900 artillery strikes on a civilian village. Now, luckily, the Russians have already evacuated this area of civilians. So, will Russia fully mobilize? This is becoming a question. I would not blame them if they did, but I seriously doubt that this is going to happen under the current circumstances. So before I get into why I don't think that this is going to result in a full mobilization as yet, let me backtrack a little bit. Even the New York Times is reporting that this group that is attacking the civilian villages in Russia is a far right-wing neo-Nazi group. It is being led by this guy that, founded a sportswear line that features neo-Nazi symbolism, and he is a white nationalist. There are some people that are saying that these are, Russian Freedom Army or some crap like that. But these are neo-Nazis. There are neo-Nazi groups that survived in Russia, in the former Warsaw Pact nations, Ukraine being primary among them, but also in Poland. There are some in Hungary. So I remember when the wall came down, and I was in Germany at the time and saw a very big problem with neo-Nazi groups coming over the border into West Germany, which caused a lot of problems for West Germany, who, you know, overall they don't approve of, but there are neo-Nazi groups within West Germany as well. So this group is a neo-Nazi group. For 9 years, Ukraine, utilizing the Azov Battalion, which was originally and the right sector, originally private military organizations that were later incorporated into the Ukrainian National Guard. These are neo-Nazi groups. They have been attacking the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, collectively known as the Donbass, for 9 years now. They are still, to this day, right now, attacking civilian cities and towns, most notably and intensely, they are attacking Donetsk, the city of Donetsk. So the Ukrainian military, to try and distance themselves from this, is just ludicrous. It is absolutely, it's garbage. It's BS. They are absolutely involved. They are arming, funding these groups, providing, heavy equipment, artillery and tanks and so forth. And in addition, as these groups got pulled back, there were other military brigades, Ukrainian official military brigades, that moved into that area to provide backup for this group that went into southern Russia. So yes, the Ukrainian military is officially involved. They are launching missiles, HIMARS attacks, and Storm Shadow missiles into civilian areas of Russia, which none of this does anything at all to push back the front line of Russian forces that are in Ukraine. That's not the goal. The goal is to try and, attack civilians. They think it will demoralize the Russian population, but the only, just as if another country attacked the United States, people that would normally be against getting involved in an armed conflict, the United States getting involved in an armed conflict, if someone was trying to directly attack our civilian population centers, those minds would change. 99% of those minds would change, and those people would coalesce under the American identity to defend ourselves. And that is what is happening in Russia, and that is understandable. That is predictable. There is no way that you could think anything else would happen. The population is not becoming demoralized and saying in this, their resolve on the Ukraine issue has been intensified extremely. Even with the missiles that have been shot down, that was to a degree. But now, with the invasion and destruction of civilian villages that had no military you know, occupation presence. Okay, this has been intensified. The Russian people are behind the idea. And the more that this happens, the more the Russian people are actually of the mindset. The only criticism of the government is that the government is not being aggressive enough. So why would I say that Russia will not fully mobilize as yet? First of all, number of reasons. First of all, it's not necessary. The Ukrainian military has been weakened. Uh, they just today or yesterday they struck airfields, which I'm surprised it's taken them this long, but it's very possible those airfields may have dual purpose, military and civilian, and Russia has avoided striking any civilian targets. But they are striking airfields at this time. They have been taking out large, ammo depots, from smaller depots on the front lines to major depots all the way over in western Ukraine. One strike in Odessa, Russia reports that destroyed a huge ammo stockpile and also destroyed 48 armored personnel carriers at the same time. So a full military mobilization is not necessary. Russia does have active duty military within Russia that are not involved in this incursion into in Ukraine. They mobilized 300,000, but that's nowhere near the full capacity of the Russian military. And Putin already announced that Russia is expanding the size of their military reserves. Reserves meaning people of a certain age get called up. They go through training for 1 to 2 years, and then they rotate out. Those people go back to their civilian lives. The first group goes back to their civilian lives, and the next group gets called up. And they go through 1 to 2 years of training, and this way you expand your military reserves. What is happening in the Belgorod region, which is the focus of these neo-Nazi attacks, is that the Belgorod region has formed a territorial defense brigade, or somewhere around 3,000 people. So that's at least 2 brigades. And part of the Wagner group has been reactivated. Not the whole thing. Keep in mind, the Wagner group, people think that in Bakhmut, the entire Wagner group was active at all times, and that is not the case. They had their own reserves that rotated out so that one group would not be there for this the entire length of that conflict, that battle. So chances are most likely the ones from the Wagner group that have been activated and sent to the Belgorod region are the ones that were last on an inactive rotation. So what's probably going to happen is that the Wagners are going to take the lead, and the territorial defense organization will protect their flanks, and then once the area is secured, then that territorial defense organization will maintain that security. There is no reason for Russia to fully mobilize. This would, in addition to this would have strong implications for the Russian economy. You would be taking a lot of people that are active workers out of the economy, out of the production lines, skilled people, which would reduce your productive capacity. Now, just for continuous training purposes, to have these people activated, that the entire Russian military, well, you've got to provide weapons, clothing, equipment, and all of this suffers wear and tear and damage, which would have to be maintained constantly, and that increases the cost of this significantly. Now, as of this time, the Russian economy has done extremely well throughout the length of this conflict. No matter what sanctions have been put on them, no matter what has been thrown at them, they have done extremely well, and they have a lower inflation rate than the United States does right now. Their inflation rate is somewhere like 2.3%, I believe. Other problems with activating your entire reserves would be that the mental fatigue that sets in. Russia is keeping their reserves, they, while trained, they want to keep those reserves as a reserve. The full size of the Russian military at this time is about 3 million people. That's active duty and reserves. The 300,000 that were sent to Ukraine, that is 10% or less of the Russian military, and Putin said that he wanted to increase that from 3 million to 6 million by 2026. So there are already soldiers that are people that are being called up and sent through training. They don't want to wear these people out just in case NATO decides that they are going to directly get involved. If NATO gets directly involved, then they want to have that large active duty and reserve force able to be activated and have all of the equipment intact. And during this time, they have increased their production of military equipment. They are producing about 2.5 million artillery shells per year and 1,500 tanks per year, and that's just two things. So they have increased their capacity so that they have these reserves stored up and ready to go in case they need it. And Russia has a long history of doing this. Prior to this conflict, it is estimated that they had an artillery shell production of about 1.7 million shells per year. Well, in 2 years, that's 3.4 million. In 3 years, that's 5.1 million. So they had a lot of artillery shells stored up and ready to go. And that 1,500 tanks a year that they can produce, those are brand new tanks. That's not counting how many old T-72s and T-90s that have been refurbished and upgraded. So that is estimated to be roughly 400 a month from one facility. And they've got two facilities that do this, so the actual numbers we don't know. We're not supposed to know. They're not going to tell you. So, by comparison, let me explain that between the United States and Europe, they are trying to increase production of artillery shells to 2 million a year by 2025, while Russia is already producing 2.5 million and increasing production. And those are estimates. The number could be far greater. By 2025, how many artillery shells are they going to be producing a year? They're producing, 1,500 new tanks per year. Do you know how many M1 tanks were produced in the past year, or last year, or the year before? The answer is zero. The answer is zero. The United States stopped producing M1 tanks, I believe in 2012, but I could be corrected on that. But for several years, we have not been producing any M1 tanks whatsoever. None at all. Yeah, they're way ahead. The only M1 tanks that, such as the ones being sent to Ukraine, are refurbished older M1 tanks. And those are being refurbished at a rate of about 4 a month. So that's 48 per year. That's it. So, in spite of what we spend on our military, just the Pentagon budget, close to $900 billion per year for just the Pentagon budget, not counting the CIA, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, the VA, etc. Just our military budget equals the budgets of the next 9 to 11 countries combined. Anyway, so this is why, no, I do not believe that Russia is going to mobilize their entire military as yet. Not until there is a good cause for it, which Putin has already said. In Ukraine, he has said, we haven't even done anything yet. So let's wait and see what happens from here. Zelensky has said that they are going to start their, mobilization, their counteroffensive soon. I expect it to be within the next 2 weeks because he is supposed to attend this meeting on June 20th. So somewhere, this could go one of two ways. Either they're going to launch their counteroffensive in the next 14 to 16 days, or they're not going to launch it at all because the assistant director of defense in Ukraine has said that they don't have enough weaponry or equipment to launch this counteroffensive and expect any kind of positive results, any kind of advance. They may be able to make some small progress, but that's mostly going to be in areas where Russian forces will do what they have been doing. They will fall back but keep firing. Russia is not fighting a war of territory. This is a war of attrition. They are trying to destroy Ukraine's military capacity. And Putin has said the more weapons you pump in, the longer this is going to go on. It's time to sit down and talk. And more countries all over the world are encouraging talks. Engage in a ceasefire, sit down and negotiate. But that's not going to happen as long as the West continues to pump weapons in. Anyway, share this video, talk about these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate whatever you can to help expand this channel and my presidential campaign, and I will catch you in the next one. Sorry this one was so long. Thanks for watching. Bye.